Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette over here saying hi to everybody today as we're so blessed you're with us to stay curious. We got a house full today. These are speakers at our ShuttleFest that we're going to have Saturday. And at the far end, we've got the documentary maker and lifelong surfer, by the way, Mike Cotton at the end. Hi, Mike.
Hello.
His second appearance on here about the Base to Space mobile launch platform number 2. And it's a great story we're going to feature in the afternoon at ShuttleFest at the Hyatt Place Hotel. In the middle is world-renowned artist Mr. Chris Calle. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
Great. Good to see you.
Good
We
seeing
certainly
you.
bragged about your artwork quite a lot on our program.
Thank
there,
you.
as it's
Appreciate
worthy,
that.
of course.
Thank you.
And I'm wearing my Calle shirt here, okay?
All right.
Get you to sign that.
As
Sign
everybody should.
Sign my bosoms later here on there, if you would. I mean,
Okay.
my breast.
Okay. Yeah,
on there.
it's not getting
And
better.
Pete Charmot. Pete
Yeah,
Charmot.
Don't go get all exotic.
Marty's trying to get the names up there that Jessica Galloway got us for us. Pete, great to see you.
Yeah, Mark.
He's a local guy, demolition expert. He and his wife have been doing this for a long time, and they took down Mobile Launch Platform 2. The
Cool.
story behind it has some, of course, some interesting things going on in there, and we're going to talk today kind of in general terms about art, whether it be drawing, painting, or documentary making. And I'd say there's some art to tearing down million-pound structures there,
Yeah.
Pete.
9 million pounds.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
millions
Seven
of
to
pounds.
Absolutely.
9 million pounds. Yeah.
So I'm going to mix up this potpourri here, and we'll see what comes out. As of course, we have behind us the beautiful peninsula of Florida, beautiful day on the Space Coast. And as I talked to Chris, who came in from Hartford, Connecticut, it might be warmer in Hartford than
It is.
Space Coast
It's
today.
like 90 degrees today, supposedly.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
But I like
right.
it here.
Well, we're glad that everybody's here with us. If you got some questions about anything about ShuttleFest or about documentary, about mobile launch platform, or art, we're going to kind of tease y'all with that as we go down the road here. Did want to let's just set everything up here with each individual one from Mike. As I said, Mike grew up in Miami and has been a documentary on more than 100 projects, right, Mike?
Well, yeah, not all documentaries. I primarily was in the music business until about 15 years ago, and I actually had relocated to Pensacola and was putting together a TV show and met Dave Barnes, who has been my exclusive co-producer and director on every project.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, he's brought me in on a lot of his projects. I say 100. We did over 100 national news stories as a production team for all the major networks. That was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole nother story. What we film and what you see on TV.
Yeah. What's
but-
on the cutting room
Yeah,
floor?
yeah, and we do, not the corporate films like Bush Hogg and Kimberly Clark and some great clients like that. But we've kind of gotten away from the news thing. We just don't have the time, and they basically send you out to disaster areas and things like that. It's pretty rough on the old bod after a while, but
Well, Mike, we had a premiere of this documentary
Yes.
in September that went quite well, and I thought it was fitting to establish our American Space Museum ShuttleFest annual program with your documentary.
honored
We're
to be here.
pleased to have you in there. Share with us a little bit about our museum and what you see in
Yeah.
our museum and why you're willing to help us.
Yeah, what had happened was just short as I could make it. I had met Pete through his wife Chrissy. We kind of knew each other. I don't know if it was through the surfing industry
Yes.
or the film industry, and somebody told her, said she goes in. She's got a great business where she goes in and does picking on these buildings and structures before
Yes,
Pete
I've
tears
heard
them
that.
down.
It is nice.
And we did a little. It was what we call a pilot, and we still have it. We're going to do something with it when we have done something with it. But that was the SIF building. Was that the name of it?
Right. Central Instrument Facility.
And I think was Mercury worked on in that building, or does it go back that far?
It was more testing labs than anything.
Okay. So we got involved with Pete and Chrissy and NASA with that particular film, and we never have moved forward with it, but we still may in piggybacking it on this film. So Pete called me a couple years after that film was put together, the pilot, and he said he started talking to us about these mobile launch platforms, which we were pretty clueless. We always thought it was just the rocket and the crawler like everybody else. No, that's kind of the redheaded stepchild, I guess. The launcher, nobody seems to know about it. And I tell people about it all the time. They're like, geez, I'm a space geek and I don't really know about that thing. So amazing piece of equipment, just a modern marvel. So Pete had contacted us and said, I'd like to document this job. And it's the one that Challenger went off of. And so it's got it. To a lot of the people that were in this film said it was sacred ground, and they just felt like this was not the one to take apart. But it is what it is. So we came down. We've done, I think, 4 or 5 location shoots there. Went around interviewing all kinds of people that had all different types of jobs on that. We've since now we at the premiere we popped in. We had over 500 photographs submitted. Plus, we took pictures. Pete took pictures. We put them all together, and by the way, we've already re-edited that again, added in more of your pictures. But we now have the Base to Space 2.0, which we tweaked the film a little bit. We tweaked and added in some more cool photographs, and then we have what we call a sizzle reel in the beginning. So it's like 4 parts to this. We do the little 4 or 5 minute piece with Pete's wife Chrissy picking this building. Is it pronounced SIF? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can say that. That was an acronym.
And then, instead of cartoons, this is what we have in newsreels. Then we go into this slideshow and we picked about 50 or 60 of our favorite photographs. And then we go into film. And at the end of the film, we have Dave Hall, who we hope will come tomorrow from California. But he is called Moto Art and PlaneTags.com. And for years, they've been taking parts of planes that are in the graveyards, like Eastern and TWA and Pan American, and making beautiful furniture, but they make these tags, commemorative tags. And so Pete knows a little bit more about that, but I think it was the fins that were shipped.
We're going
out.
to talk about the tags
Yeah.
a little more at the end there. I've got that racked up there with
We
you.
premiered it here on the November 22nd, I think. And in essence, we're premiering it again, which is 2.0. And don't forget to get your Base to Space hats. And we also have Base to Space.
Yep, all kinds of
little
swag
product
there.
placement there. So
And
we're
gonna-
real excited about this.
Thank you very much, Mike. We're going to talk to Pete about this whole project here at the beginning and the end
I got
there.
a question for
but,
Pete.
Yeah,
Well, just jumping ahead.
Absolutely.
So your wife, when she picks, what kind of stuff does she?
speak
I
up,
mean,
Pete.
what's like some of the coolest stuff she's found? That fascinates me.
Yeah, well, there a lot more material was left behind back in the day. Now, as we move forward, there's other agencies working out there, other private companies, and they're a little bit more picky on taking things.
Yeah.
But when NASA decommissioned a lot of the shuttle facilities, they left a lot of stuff behind. So we were able to get some stuff. I mean, there's like test tubes and measuring instruments, and we've got these things that when you go in a clean room, you put your feet on
Sure.
to note if there's static electricity.
Sure, yeah.
Got a couple of those.
Wow.
It's just like a lot of one-off stuff. So when she's picking and trying to put stuff together, it's really hard. It's like, you're not gonna sell something for like $200. I mean, these are one of a kind.
Right.
Never,
And what do you keep? What do you get rid of?
yeah, I mean, and we end up filling our spare space in our yard
Wow.
with all kinds of
That's a
Well,
cool,
we
it's a
do
cool yard.
memorabilia auctions that you get a
I
healthy
know.
cut on there, and I know you're aware
and we've
of
been
those
part
in
of
there.
it.
Yeah, you have. been.
We've
You
sold signs and stuff.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the signage and stuff like that. And Chris Calle in the middle there is not just eye candy for our show
Aw,
today,
sweet.
but we're going to jump into what Chris and our program is about here and then come back to the Base to Space. Marty hit the big, equal, not the equal sign, but the minus sign. There you go. We have 3 panels. We're quite proud of putting this together. Our whole team here, led by Karan Conklin. We got a morning panel with Nick Thomas, who's the astronaut wrangler, I call him, at the Space Center. John Zarella, who pioneered the 24-hour news cycle on CNN. And Tom Usiak, who happens to be sitting in our studio here, did a great show with us yesterday on his trip to Kazakhstan. Photographed Norm Thagard's flight to space. They're all going to talk about what they feel is the legacy of this 3-decade-long shuttle program, and I'm going to be interested to hear each of their comments. They're going to be streaming this on live on our YouTube and Facebook Live channels. We got fingers crossed. Hope Trekkie Techie is going to be helping us big time there. So Jessica, get your sleep. And then our afternoon panel is going to be led by Chris Calle. Ron Woods was a suit tech that turned to artist. We're going to see a piece of his artwork. And Doug Forrest, who is obsessed with the Apollo program and his pencil.
Mm-hmm.
And hi, Doug. We know you're watching. You and your wife have a safe trip here tonight. And
Actually,
then
Doug's probably in the air.
they probably
Yeah,
are in the
yeah.
air. Yep. Hopefully, Stay Curious is on the big screen TV on that
Can only
747
hope.
up there. But I'm really happy that we're ending on the future, the rocket renaissance that's going on here. We've got 3 dynamic leaders of companies around here. Steve Lloyd's with All Points. Rob Fabian's the COO of Via Space, a 3D rocket printed company that's in our backyard here in Cocoa, the town of Cocoa. And Anton Karawas. And Anton is going to end our program. He is the senior person on the panel that's going to decide when Artemis 2 launches, on what date. He has literally his finger on the pulse of the blast off button or whatever that Charlie Blackwell Thompson's in control of. So you're going to hear the latest about Artemis and from space companies and enjoy a great fellowship of space workers. That's what we're all about. You guys have met me before. You know that's what I'm all about, is the fellowship of people enjoying and sharing this beautiful history of America's space age. Chris, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about there. There are 3 of the titans of space art right there.
Sure.
Robert McCall, a beautiful painting of used in 2001 Space Odyssey. He passed away
Oh, gosh.
before your father.
I believe, yeah, my dad passed
Okay.
away in 2010.
Chris's father, Paul Calle, that is his moment, one of his moments. He's I'll have Chris mention what that's about. And Chesley Bonestell, who you've seen his artwork on science fiction movies. My favorite movie, Forbidden Planet.
Mhm.
Okay.
Sure.
He is the great grandfather, or whatever you want to call him, of space art, isn't he, Chris?
Well, I mean, he's considered the father of space art. I mean, everybody who's come after him, who's ever picked up a pencil or a paint, brush, has been influenced by Chesley Bonestell.
Including your dad. Now,
Sure, including
what's
my dad.
what did this image
Yeah,
of
so
your
that-
dad's become?
That image is the original painting for the 1969 First Man on the Moon postage stamp, where they printed billions of stamps, and it was.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most iconic U.S. postage stamps of the 20th century. I mean, it has to be. I would be surprised if anybody in this room, somewhere in their house, tucked into the back of some drawer, doesn't have one of those 10-cent airmail
Yeah.
stamps.
Yeah,
So it's,
I
it's
hear
a really
you, right?
iconic image.
It certainly is.
Yep.
And Robert McCall, a contemporary of your father, talk about
Sure.
their friendly rivalry.
Yeah, I could do a whole talk on their friendly rival, which was terrific. I mean, Bob, my dad had many different facets of his career. One was the space, one was designing postage stamps, and then he ended up with the last 35 years of his life devoting it to the mountain men of the fur trade,
Which is unbelievable
Yeah.
artwork. If just a completely flabbergasted.
and
to look at your dad's
what's
mountain
interesting is we should have
fur
pulled-
trappers, things like that, Pete. It's just amazing.
the last painting he did in 2009 for the 40th anniversary of the moon landing was these 3 mountain men on the top of a mountain, and he wrote something about it, how and in the afternoon sky he had the crescent of the moon, and it was his tribute to 3 intrepid explorers. Back in the mountain men days, these guys traversed lakes and mountains and dangerous areas, and he was equating it basically to Aldrin, Armstrong, and Collins, just making that trek to the moon. So it's kind of cool. But Bob McCall,
Well, before we leave your dad,
Yeah.
he's very famous for, he was the only person allowed to do this.
Sure.
And then you depicted it in the movie
Sure,
First
which
Man.
you guys would appreciate.
Let's see your SAG card there.
So my father was asked by Deke Slayton to be the only artist documenting the suiting up and the breakfast of Apollo 11. So he did all these beautiful on-the-spot pen and ink drawings of Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins eating their breakfast and suiting up for the launch. And a little segue is Ron Woods, who you mentioned. Ronnie Woods was suiting up Buzz Aldrin at the same time. And so years later, decades later, when Ron and I got to know each other, there's a drawing my father did of Buzz Aldrin, and there's Ron, suiting up Buzz.
We're going to see a piece of Ron's work. Here is one of your father's
That's one of my dad's
sketches.
drawings of Neil Armstrong. Not one of the suiting up drawings, but the interesting tie-in with me and my dad and the suiting up and with the movies is that the 2019 or 18 movie First Man, directed by Damien Chazelle, starring Ryan Gosling. There's a scene in the movie where there's an artist sketching during the breakfast of the Apollo 11 crew, and they asked me to play my father. So I play my father in the movie, sketching, Gosling and Corey Stahl and Lucas Haas as Armstrong, Aldrin, and Conklin.
Listen to that name dropper, Hollywood.
No, that's who's in the
Mr.
movie.
Hollywood there.
That's who's in the movie. And
frankly-
I was, of course, invited to the premiere. So that's
Yeah.
the name dropping right there.
Well, we had a premiere of it of our own here at the American Space Museum. Remember that, Marty? I hadn't given you a shout out there, Marty Winkle. We had your Grumman guys there for the world premiere of that. That
And
was
I'm
quite an
wearing
event.
Marty's Grumman t-shirt.
Yes,
Marty's
you
Apollo
are.
13 reunion
You
t-shirt.
are. Which we're talking about the movie First Man. If you've not seen it, I really enjoy it. It was kind of panned by some of the quote space geek professionals out there as didn't show it does show the American flag in a beautiful panorama.
Shows it like a million times.
It wasn't part of the movie to show the triumph of Apollo 11. It was about the wives, the kids, the families, and Neil Armstrong's personal hang-ups, if you will. This man saw 5 of his best friends killed within a period of like 3 years. 4 X-15 pilots and Ed White. Am I right? That's
Sure.
I promote the movie.
To
I
me,
think
it's the story about a normal man doing extraordinary things
Yeah.
and having all of the problems and issues that everybody else has.
Did you or your father get to meet Neil or Buzz?
Sure,
I know
yeah.
you met Mike.
No,
several times,
Mike.
but-
Mike, I was good friends with Mike, and my dad was really good friends with Mike. And in Carrying the Fire, Mike actually even mentions, there was an artist, Paul Calle, sketching us during the suiting up of the breakfast.
Oh, I didn't know
and
that.
There's
Wow.
and he says something like, he's a professional, hopefully among other professionals, which I thought was really cool.
Huh.
And Mike, everybody knows that Mike became, was, and then became an artist afterwards. So he
We
he
lost him
understood-
about a year and a half ago. And what I find interesting about Mike Collins is he didn't do any space art. He did flowers and beach
did a
scenes,
little of
and
everything, yeah.
stuff like
Africa,
that.
he went to Africa,
Is it
painted.
true that he rarely signed anything?
No, he signed. Oh no, he signed all the
Because
time.
I thought
Yeah,
he didn't want people to buy it for his signature.
Well, yeah, but
And,
I don't think that was really that
Okay.
that much. But Mike, the interesting thing about Mike as an artist was when my dad was sitting in that breakfast room sketching them. Mike at one point looked up and said, "Paul, is that you?" Because my dad was wearing a mask.
Oh,
And my dad said, "Yeah." And Mike got up from eating breakfast, hours before they're going to launch to the moon on this historic launch, and got up to see the sketchbook that my dad, was sketching those guys in. And in the movie, I use the same sketchbook and the same pens that my dad used in 1969.
that
So
is awesome.
everything kind of, came back, So
well,
pretty cool.
that's what that is an art story beyond many up there. We've got 3 examples of your 2 examples of your dad's work there. Tell us the prominent place. Is that Power?
That's
not
power.
to
That's
go.
power. I'll tell you about the one.
Power's the Atlas.
I'll tell you about the one on the
Power
left.
goes to Saturn.
The one on the left with the Armstrong portrait. My dad was asked by Mike Collins and the Air and Space Museum. It was early in the Air and Space Museum. What came about in like 1972 was built, I think, something like that. They wanted to do Armstrong and Lindbergh were part of the Lindbergh Foundation, and Armstrong was involved in that. They asked my dad to do this drawing of Armstrong, and they co-signed a limited edition print that the National Air and Space Museum sold, and I think they sold it for like $50. Okay, Neil Armstrong, yeah. And you could buy, I think, 2 of them, and all the money went to the Lindbergh Foundation. And I went down with my dad for the signing, and it was in the basement or whatever of the Air and Space Museum. And I was in charge with my white, gloved hands of taking the print from my father and handing it to Armstrong. So there's all these photographs of, it's my dad, me, Neil Armstrong, Mike Collins is in the background, Jim Dean, who was the art director of NASA at the time. So it was pretty cool as a whatever a 14-year-old punk that I was at that time. I didn't know what I was really involved in. Yeah, it was big.
Awesome! What a story. The upper right, your dad has a version of this with this is the Atlas rocket. Then he did a Saturn V
Mercury,
version.
Yep.
That you tell the boat tails there on the Atlas.
Yeah, so it's just he wanted to just show the awesome power of those rockets, and so many as he was my dad was one of the original 8 artists documenting the space program for NASA. In 1962, they started after Gordon Cooper's launch, and that's what that depicts. And he, other artists were sketching the rocket blasting off, and he wanted to show just that close up, that power of what it is, and that's called Power. And he did a version of the Saturn V called Power to Go.
And that is prominently displayed at Huntsville.
It's prominently displayed in Huntsville at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. They blew it up to a 2-story mural.
It's
two-story
mural.
And the cool part about that is it's a mural as you walk up the steps to go into the room where they have the Saturn V.
Check out check out Chris's website. You'll see his kids and his wife running up the stairs up there. That's pretty cool. Yeah. And then. And then to demonstrate some of your chops there, we've got your, but people first look at, that's a photograph. No, it's not.
And when you look at art, a lot of times small, it closes up and it looks maybe not photographic, but realistic. But when you really look at the details, there's a lot of paint and globs of paint and stuff in it. But that's Gemini 4 spacewalk. That's Ed White's spacewalk. I was really good friends with Jim McDivitt. And he co-signed an edition of these, and he was pretty involved when I was painting it. And I asked him if he flew anything on the mission, and he told me the things he flew. And I said, hey, I'd love to buy like one of your flags or something that you flew. And he said, I don't have any more. I don't have any more of those. I've gotten rid of them already, but I do have some little pieces of silver. And so he sent me these 3 pieces of silver, one for me and my wife and one for each of my kids, and little squares, maybe 1 by 1 inch. And I called Alan Bean. And I said, Alan, I'm working on this painting of Ed White, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but I'm going to scrape off the silver and I'm going to mix it in the paint that I used to paint the umbilical cord of Ed White. And Alan was like, and I talked to his wife years ago, and she said after he got off that phone with me, he was like really thrilled because Alan said to me, somebody's got I'm not going to live forever, and somebody's got to carry on this great tradition, and it's you. And Leslie confirmed that, afterwards, saying that Alan was just thrilled that I was kind of doing that.
Alan Bean, of course, the 4th man on the moon, Apollo 12, with Pete Conrad, and then he was the commander of the 2nd manned-crewed Skylab mission. But you mentioned that shaving off a piece of space-flown things, because what did Bean discover that he put into his paintings?
Well, he would take little pieces of Kapton foil and cut them up and mix them in his paint, and off of his glove, he would put a little bit of the dust and the moon dust, and he'd put that in the paint. And
I heard that he looked up at the patches they took off his face
yeah,
and looked at him closely one day and said, "There's moon dust on that," and got this. The vacuum, the mini vacuum, and then he put that in his base paint.
And he actually has in his studio it's still probably there, but a frame of the patch, the NASA patch and the American flag, where he took little threads out too to put them in his paint.
Wow,
so cool!
So you artists out there know what we're talking about.
So a little bit of something from his
Easter eggs,
his trip.
little
Easter eggs. Yeah.
In there. We have all 3 of these on a shirt here at the American Space Museum. We're going to be selling them. Actually, we have Power to Go, not Power, on the shirt. And we'll be selling those. And
your shirt.
In the shirt I'm wearing. I'm going to get you to autograph this for me here. So come and pick up a Calle shirt. What I like about the artistics that he's done here, Mike and Pete, is... look at all the black he's got on that picture. Half of that picture is black, and you can't help but look at the astronaut because of that. See, but you go from one corner to the other, you only painted half the painting there.
I painted the whole thing. I painted it with black, as my dad would always say, with a big brush. But
That was a
actually,
black poster paper.
but actually, the original painting has probably another 6 or 8 inches of black.
Well,
on
I'm
the left
pointing
and
out
on the
the
top.
artistic eye of this powerful leader of space art here, Chris Calle, and we're
Thank you,
so
Mark.
glad that
Thanks.
you're here there because so I want to look at promote Chris's website there. You can see both Paul and Chris Calle's space art there. CalleArt.com with a com filler.
CalliSpaceArt.com.
Yeah, but CalleArt.com leads you to your dad's
Right.
other
Right.
stuff.
Why
right?
does it say CalliArt.co?
Because I didn't prove
Is that the new one?
before I put it up
I don't know.
there.
Can you put an M on
It's
it?
.com.
Actually, I am working on a new website that we're going to roll out in about a month. So
And,
maybe that's
yeah,
how it'll be. It'll be
And Doug Forrest with 2 R's, all right? He's going to be landing in Orlando here tonight. Here's the panel that we're going to be talking about. Ron Woods there in the middle. Ron doesn't have a website, or I'd have put that up there.
But he's got some great artwork.
moonart1.com. There is a typical excellence of Mr. Doug Forrest. That's your friend
Jim McDivitt.
McDivitt. I mean, that when Doug says he showed the work in progress to McDivitt, McDivitt thought it was a photograph.
Yeah.
And who would think of a perspective like that? This is what I like, Pete and Mike, is I'd have never thought, oh yeah, that'll make a good picture. Hold that up in front of your face. But look at it there. It's just beautiful. So
The
that
third
gives-
eye of the artist. That's
Yeah.
That's
There you
an
go.
artist.
Yeah.
You got
and then a man who put Apollo's 8, 11, and I think 15 in their moon suits there. And this is
Ron
Ron
Woods.
Woods.
I got a funny Ron Wood story about
And,
the movie First Man.
Oh, okay.
So back to the movies, tie it all in. So after we shot the breakfast scene, we took a break, and then they were shooting the suiting up scene, and they didn't want me to sketch like my dad sketched because they were being too tight in there. But Ronnie was a consultant, and I can't tell you how many times in like 30 minutes, Ronnie, come over here. Was this like this or was this like this? And the chairs were, I think they showed them as green, and when Ron came in, he said no, they were beige, and they painted them. They painted the chairs.
Oh, really?
And how many times during that filming of the suiting up scene did they say, "Hey, Ron, would this be like that?" No, the clock would be there, and this would be there. It was fascinating. It's fascinating. He recalled that like that.
Well, I've been wanting to revisit that after I learned you were in it and saw that clip, but I'm going to go back and watch that movie again there because I didn't know Ron was so deeply involved.
Yeah,
in it
he
there.
really was.
Yeah, all 3 of these gentlemen have a different perspective on space. You're out there in the universe and then down to the lunar rover. And Ron is really his work and again Chris's. Doug, strictly pencil, and strictly Apollo. And I posted a couple other pictures of him. And Ron Woods there, yes, his name is just like the Rolling Stone guitarist
what I
Ron
keep
Woods,
thinking of.
who's
got 2
also
careers.
who's also an excellent artist.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, he is.
I don't know if they've ever met each other. You'd think Ronnie Woods, the Stones, would want to read Ron,
Maybe.
famous moon associate. But that's how Ron sees space.
Sure.
Okay, and a glove or
And when you think about it, that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
He's seeing it from his perspective.
yeah.
And you can't forget the other guy who's coming tomorrow, Chris Wade.
Chris Wade,
really
I did
young,
not put
talented
Chris
artist.
Wade's picture.
Yep.
Yeah, we have a young kind of someone that Chris has tapped. At,
Yeah, he's a really
I think so.
talented young
And,
artist.
I'll post some of Chris Wade's pictures up there.
Yeah, does some really cool stuff.
On our Facebook before. But this is one of your latest works. I know you're constantly
Last
working.
year, yeah.
And
I've been working on this kind of montage technique where I do some drawing, some painting, and then paint on top, and it's kind of a montage of different things. I've been inspired by an artist from the '60s, Robert Rauschenberg. I don't know if you know who he is, but
Okay, Robert Rauschenberg. These are montages. They have that cut and paste feel to them, collage kind of feel to them from the '70s, don't they? To you, Mike Cotton?
Oh yeah.
So
Back in the day, we actually would cut
sure,
and paste
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
logos and things.
Yeah.
Shout out to your photographer on the Artemis rocket there,
Mark Usiak,
Mark
my
Usiak.
buddy.
All right. We can say I took the moon shot because I
Okay.
got that shot.
Okay, sure. We
No,
can say that.
but that's not true. We got a comment and a question, Marty, on our UCAC family microphone there.
And it's Mark Usiak saying, "Hey, Chris, tell them the story from the DC movie premiere."
Telling the story from the first man premiere in Washington, D.C.
I don't know
Is
which
it-
story he's talking about. It might be the story where when we got up to get our tickets to get in, they didn't have our name.
Nice.
But it was okay because the people in front of us were Joe Engel and his wife.
Oh, really?
And they turned to me and I turned to them and said, well, we got to stick together. And they had our name. It was just wasn't on the person there. I don't know if that's what Mark's talking about, but I was invited to the premiere, which was like really cool. And maybe I don't know, a couple things maybe he's talking about, but we walked the red carpet with Mark and Rick Armstrong and their wives. And I was with my daughter. So it was really cool. We took some really cool pictures on the red carpet. And then when I saw Damien Giselle, I went over to him. I didn't know whether he would remember me and stuff. And I walked over and I said, Damien. He's like, oh my gosh, Chris, and he gives me like a big bro hug. And my daughter's like looking like, I mean, she knew all of this, but she's like, what? And then Ryan Gosling comes over. And after we filmed that day, I gave them each a book on my dad's artwork. I wrote this book on my dad's Apollo artwork, and I gave one to Ryan Gosling, and I gave one to Damien Chazelle. And when Ryan Gosling was walking the red carpet, I walked up to him and I said, Ryan, I don't know if you remember me, I'm Chris Calle. And I said, of course, Chris, I remember you. I have your book. And so my daughter just was like blown away too. So I think that's what Mark is referring to.
What's your daughter's name?
Ariana.
Ariana. And tell Dave Stange up there where your family dollars are going to support Ariana.
Go Blue, the University of Michigan.
See, I'm fair. I'm this Buckeye. I'll
Not
go
fair,
along with that.
please. You're only fair because we whomped you this year.
Well,
And
that
last
team
year.
up north ain't going to do that in the future anymore. Well, we got some bigger linemen coming
Okay.
our way. So,
Keep telling yourself that,
and
Mark.
you have a son. A big shout
I
out
do.
to your son.
My son Ian,
Ian.
graduating this year, Providence College,
All right. What's he?
finance major.
Finance. So he's gonna
Yep.
he's gonna keep the family empire solvent, huh?
Hopefully, he'll invest our money.
Yeah, why is it-
Take out the
Keep it-
beans.
keep
and
us solvent.
and your wife's name? While we're talking about the whole family.
Jacqueline.
Jacqueline. All
Yeah.
right. We know that she's going to watch this. I haven't met you, so look forward to that someday.
All right.
I think.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You should look forward to it. Yeah.
Good. Was it kind of what inspired you to do it this way? And I'm going to point out a little artistic thing that I noticed here, Chris, is the left side. He's got about.
He's going to critique it now.
Well, no, I just said
Okay,
the left
there we go.
side. He's got about 8 or 10 images in there, including a little Easter egg of himself.
True.
And the right side's just got one image
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And so you're not balanced
There's-
there. What's the
Why do we have to be balanced? I mean, it is balanced.
Okay.
It is balanced.
Uh,
I don't know. I start and it just kind of evolves.
I like them. I like where you're headed. This is what you're doing. Some different things in there.
And I did something specific. I did a piece like this, a montage piece. You'll see it tomorrow at ShuttleFest. I did it specifically for the show.
Oh, wonderful.
Yep. It's a
And
shuttle.
we'll,
basically.
he may be back Monday to show you that on Stay Curious.
Well,
there.
everyone watching will be going to ShuttleFest, so they'll see it.
There you go. Yeah, they'll see the ShuttleFest when you're watching it stream live
There you go. That's it.
tomorrow. What typically size do you make a work of art?
These original montages are probably like 28 or 30 inches wide by about anywhere between 32 and 36 inches tall. And
Okay.
I've been made prints from them, and
So under 3 feet by 2 feet,
yeah,
usually in that way.
typically. Although I did do one that I'm still working on of Apollo 11, and it's probably 6 feet wide by 4 feet tall. So it's pretty
Okay.
big. Really cool, actually.
So you're not limiting
Yeah.
yourself. The
No.
work I know, as I known you, you'll go
No.
to. Tell us how many postage stamps you have.
Sure. My father and I each designed over 35 postage stamps for the U.S. So my dad, we talked about it earlier, designed the 69 First Man on the Moon stamp. But before that, he designed the Gemini Twin space stamp.
How many you and your dad together?
About 35 each.
How many of those are ducks?
None. None. No ducks.
No ducks?
No duck stamps. Just U.S. postage stamps. Although I also designed hundreds and hundreds of stamps for different countries, like for United Nations, Marshall Islands, Micronesia. I designed for the 30th anniversary of the moon landing for Sweden. Designed a postage stamp, Apollo 11 postage stamp for Sweden, but the one thing that they said that had to be in the stamp was the Hasselblad camera.
Oh,
So the astronauts holding the
of
Hasselblad
course.
camera.
Oh, I'd like to see that
Yeah,
stamp.
I'll
so
have
would
to show
Tom
you sometime
Usiak
from
over there,
record.
probably.
Yeah.
another House of Blood lover. Well, as you see, the work is awesome, and
Thank you.
we're so pleased to have you as part of it. If you are on the Space Coast and going to come tomorrow, you're going to have one of the books with you.
I'll have the book I wrote on my dad's, the second edition.
Of the
That-
Apollo 11 book. Which
Yeah,
has
it's called Celebrating Apollo 11, the artwork of Paul Calle, but it's got, more than that. It has the second edition is a chapter on me, and there's a chapter on a couple pages on the movie First Man and some other things in it. So it's
Good.
an updated version.
Excellent. Marty, do we have another comment or question? No. Okay. Well, Carlton Bailey's watching. Hey, CB. Maybe see you tonight. Don't know what dinner plans are. Are they going to pull the Zarellas card on us, Tom, or what?
We got to
we love Zarellas.
Got to
Yeah.
set up for ShuttleFest.
Yeah, we got to
What are you
set up
talking
for
about? We got work to
ShuttleFest.
do.
I got a lot of work to do tonight, definitely. Cynthia Rossi's watching. She's going to be at ShuttleFest. Dave Stangy wishes he would be there. What can we say about Mark Usiak? He's just keep working, Mark. We don't need you.
What
down
can we say about him? He's not here.
yeah, exactly.
We
Melissa-
miss you, Mark. We miss you.
Yeah, we miss you. Melissa Pope is local here. Tom Usiak sitting in our big chair over there by my desk. Tammy Miller's watching. Hi, Hazel Banks. Hope you can show up tomorrow. She was secretary to the Apollo astronauts, and has told many stories on Stay Curious. Robert Law's up there in Dundee, Scotland on a Friday night. Hope you're enjoying your cocktail there, Robert. Christopher Mick is in Madison, Wisconsin. Deborah Johnson's watching. And we've got our friends, Cliff Watson is waking up in Australia. Since we had the time change, he can't watch us live, but because it's about an hour before he gets up. But good brekkie to you up there on a Saturday morning there. A friend of mine that he was down here for the Great American Eclipse from Australia there. Cliff Watson. So, well, let's move into away from that type of art that we can see on a canvas or a photograph to the base to space art with Pete over here and Mike over there. Mike told you a little bit about it there. I wanted to brag about that when we did do the sort of premiere here. Bruce Melnick, there's the astronaut with you two guys. Bruce is in this movie. Tell us about Bruce's role in that movie.
Well, first of all, this is our favorite location right here, American Space Museum. And
Thank
I
you.
just want to say about this museum, we worked with NASA somewhat and the Kennedy Space Center Museum and some other museums and different people off location. Of course, Pete was so great at getting me and the camera people out on the site. And, once we got approved, they kind of got to know us there. He kept coming back. They'd call me and go, hey, your pass is going to run out. You need to renew it. And finally, we had done all the scenes. I says, well, I'd like to renew it, but I have to tell you we're done. But we finally got, COVID put a monkey wrench in this thing, like a lot of things. And just as we began to put this together, COVID hit. We got approved to go in and film Bruce with some management at the Kennedy Space Center. And then it got shot down. And in the interim, we got approved, but the new person came on. She says, well, I don't see that you're approved here. And I go, look in the computer. So we're approved. And she's like, well, we're just getting over COVID, and I don't know when we can get you here. So I'm going to have to confess, I called Delaware North, which is this huge company that has concessions all over the country. I never knew they managed this. And I talked to a lady, older lady there, just luck of the draw. And I said, who's in charge up there? And she mentioned this guy's name. And I said, look, they're getting a free commercial. This is not like it's not huge, but it's not a rinky-dink production. And it's going to be shown in a lot of places. And she goes, let me give you the CEO's direct line. So I called whoever it was. I got his voicemail.
Karen.
And then whoever it was called me back in an hour and says, here's who you're going to call down there. And if you have any problem at all, you call me right back. I was like, oh boy, now I'm really stepping into it.
Go to the top.
But I did. I called. Lady called me right back. We found the authorization. You guys are approved. Bruce is going to be at the thing. So we actually, I forgot which shuttle that is, but the backdrop was that whatever that shuttle that's in the museum at the Space Center. But that was a thrill to get.
Atlantis.
Yeah, and it's so huge, and there's so much stuff there. I want to go back there and just spend a day or two walking around.
Oh, yeah.
But I want to say something about the American Space Museum. When we contacted here, which we learned about you guys through Christy and Pete, and that we need to see this, I'm like, well, what is this museum? Well, it's the grassroots type of thing of people that are fans of the space program and a lot of people that work this program. I will say that this crew here was unbelievable because we're always looking for new people to interview, which is a lot of interviews, a lot of B-roll, but then a lot of archival stuff we had in there. But Mark and his team here probably were responsible. Half the people that are in the film, you guys helped locate them and get them here, and we interviewed a lot of them here on site. So for people out there that haven't been here, this is what a group of people that are dedicated to a cause, this is what they can do. Not that I don't like working with government agencies.
Right.
Now I'm lying. But in my business, because we've done a lot of news and various things where military bases and things like that, and you spend half your time with all red tape. But we were able to come in here, and they helped us, and we feel like we're helping now get the word out about the museum. So I just want to go on record as thanking you and everybody here, what you did for us.
Well, we thank you very much, and we appreciate those warm words. And Karan Conklin is our
Yeah, Miss
executive
Karan,
director, and Karen's been involved here 20 years at this nonprofit and could have had a better job many times, all right? And I came on board 5 years ago. We got Nick Enix, our collection manager, and several other of us. It's unbelievable. It's like we drank the Kool-Aid that the euphemism is
Right.
for joining the cult.
Right.
Yeah, but we're all willingly drinking the
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're all willing to
Yeah.
drink it,
And we like it.
It's just Karen's passion rubbed off on me, and it's still there. And we're so proud that we did ShuttleFest last year, and just thinking, well, it was a love fest for the space workers because they hadn't seen each other in 2 years because of COVID. So I knew that would work. And I told Karen, I said, we could do this as an annual event and focus on certain segments of the shuttle era that has completely changed our society today. I just can't stop talking about the International Space Station, occupied for 22 years. You don't understand the medicine that's come out of that space station and improved lives on Earth by them being able to do things that they can do up there and then bring it down to Earth. So it's just, we have an amazing group of people here. Volunteers are just as passionate as our core of 5 paid employees here, that we all feel like, we're overworked and underpaid, but that we don't care in many ways. And tomorrow we're going to have an event, not for the American Space Museum, but for you, the space worker. That's what this is all about, is a place for you to come and rejoice again in your tremendous accomplishments. Though tomorrow we're going to rejoice in the destruction of one of the facilities that made all those accomplishments. But I think you all know what I mean, and people that I associate with. Karen and I very much are into the attraction of people to what we do here. And all my life I said, I don't push boulders uphill, okay? And I'll let them go, and some of them stop right away. Maybe you get behind them, push it up. Some of them just go off the mountain. Let them go.
You got to plant the
That's
seed.
one of my lessons in life there, If it's, but yeah, people like you and Pete, we know that you nothing better than people just saying they are good people to deal with. And in Delaware North, yeah, you had to get to the top maybe to get the fire stomped out around you, but that's a huge worldwide organization. Right. And we could talk so much about how us baby boomers here don't recognize some of the things going on in our world. That's how we grew up.
Well, let me mention on the film, you do have a beautiful gift shop here.
Yes.
And if you're in the area, come here. The hats, the koozies, and 2.0, the latest edition of the film, is in the gift shop here, and we'll have them at ShuttleFest tomorrow. Also, if you're on Facebook, you can go to Mike Cotton Productions, and this film and all of our films are there, and ways you can. We're based in Pensacola, but we ship all over the world. And we have now entered the modern age of broadcasting. I'm proud to say we've recently established our own platform on Vimeo they've been around a long time. We
Yeah,
used them in
Vimeo.
the film business, moving content around. But now they have a public platform you can sign up on, which we did. And this and 3 other documentaries we have are on there. So if you want to see it online, just go to vimeo.com, type in The Base to Space, and you can watch the film. You can rent it, you can buy it, whatever, so you can see it on there. We also do fundraisers with all of our films, usually with organizations like our Back to China Beach, a lot of Vietnam veterans groups we benefit. So if you want to have a live screening, we do, just like we're doing here, we do that as well.
Yeah, Back to China Beach is one of your big ones, and the bar.
Yeah, if you were, especially Navy and Marines and Coasties, if you flew, you were stationed at Pensacola, NAS Pensacola, and on the Alabama-Florida line is the last American roadhouse called the Floribama, and kind of a notorious place. Doesn't really deserve that, but people ask me in South Florida where I grew up, what's it look like? I said, it looks like Fred Sanford and Pee Wee Herman built a bar on the beach. Today it's corporate, it's just bigger. But we did for 40 years. In 78, it was built in 64, just a little place. A guy named Joe Gilchrist bought that place and turned it into this phenomenal music venue. He's probably the best friend a songwriter's ever had. And they do the largest songwriters festival in the world there every November.
Up in Pensacola.
They're the headquarters, ground zero, Frank Brown International Songwriters Fest, 20 venues from Gulf Shores, Alabama over to Pensacola. But speaking about astronauts, which many of them have been there because they were in the service, Joe just passed away, and about 2 weeks before he passed away, we completed and premiered his documentary, which I had to beat on him constantly that we're going to do. And he's a very, you wouldn't know who he was, but everybody wanted his life to be documented. So that one we just came out with, the Joe Gilchrist story. But Back to China Beach, that was a dream of mine, to do something with the stories that I kept hearing from my buddies coming back from Vietnam that were surfers and talking about surfing in the middle of rockets, being fired at them. And so, but that film, we started out as we wanted to do kind of a lightweight Vietnam film, but was real. And a lot of these guys actually worked on the TV show China Beach. They were consultants. But really with that film, it ended up 55 years of their history, and we're winning awards with it. And but a lot of them, they're into the space stuff. A lot of these guys that we've interviewed out here at NASA, former contractors, employees, were in the service. But so all these films are kind of interconnected. And we've got one we did on
MikeCotton.com.
No, it would be just go to Mike Cotton Productions on Facebook.
Mike Cotton
We have a new
Productions on Facebook.
website we're working on.
Mike Cotton
That'll be
Productions on
MikeCottonProductions.com,
Facebook.
but it has not launched.
All right, good. Well, to end the show here, we'll get Pete on here, talk a little bit. This is what we're talking about, folks. This is a mobile launch platform there
There it
on
is.
the crawler. That's a completely separate thing, the crawler. And these have a history that we're going to have the brief history of it quickly at ShuttleFest. But Pete, you were called up or bid on this. How did you get involved with tearing things apart for NASA?
Yeah, well,
Speak up there a little bit, my friend. We'll
in
get the
regards
microphone.
to MLP, I mean, we've been working at NASA for 25 years, so been involved with a lot of shuttle-
Frank Lynn is your
Franklin
excavator.
Services, correct. And we decommissioned a lot of the old shuttle buildings and shuttle facilities, including the MDD, which is the mate structure that used to lift the shuttle up on top of the 747. We demoed that years ago.
No.
And then we just kept doing one building after another. We got caught up with this MLP. It was on the chopping block. I remember going to a request for quote to dismantle one of these with a bunch of other contractors. NASA was actually trying to find somebody to take it, like another space agency. Like there was guys there from like other countries. Okay, but how do you move it?
Yeah.
What's
the shipping charge on this 6 million pound?
Very slowly.
Right. Well, so everybody stands there and looks at this 2-story, 130 by 165 feet long, wide, 2-story, 8 to 9. Well, that 2 was 9 million pounds. The one we're doing now is MLP3. It's 7 million pounds. So there's no way. I mean, that thing only traveled on the crawler way.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go anywhere else.
Yeah.
You can't take the crawler across the asphalt; it would sink through it. So there is a way you could take it out by barge, but you can't get to the barge. So I mean, how do you? There's no way. So it had to be decommissioned. It had to be dismantled.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, how did we? I mean, we've done some pretty heavy duty steel. We demoed both flame deflectors in 39A and 39B. So it was a very similar amount of tonnage of steel and a very similar method. One we torched, one we sheared. We had hydraulic shears on our machines. So 39B we sheared, 39A SpaceX's pad we torched most of it. Okay, so we knew both ways to do it, and that's just a big piece of steel, and pretty much the same methodology went to take that apart. But nobody's ever done an MLP, so we know how to do it now for sure.
Yeah.
You know,
How long did it take you to do MLP2? Roughly from
5 months.
5 months. So you got that's kind of time frame this for MLP.
Yeah, we can move faster on this one.
Uh-huh.
It has a little bit more open spaces. They've taken a lot of things out of it, and we know how to do it. So it's the learning curve is over. We know how to do this.
So when you're taking this to the metal scrapyard, how many pickup trucks are in line to get it weighed there? What happened? What happened to it, Pete?
Actually, there's no pickup trucks. There's big tractor trailers and dump trucks that'll haul it away. We'll process it as best we can to get it down to as small a size as we can fit in a trailer. 250, 300 loads later, it'll be gone. But there's more work in it than just demoing the steel. We have to prep the ground. We have to build ramps to get up to it. But the interesting thing is MLPs never sit below 27 feet in their life. They're on stands in the VAB, and when they're on the crawler, they're 26 to 27 feet above grade. So the part that happens, a subcontractor by the name of Mammut comes in, and they slowly jack that thing down to the ground to 5 feet.
Oh.
And it's 27 foot tall. So then we build a dirt ramp all the way around so we can access it with our equipment.
Huh.
And
Actually
that's
buried
how,
up to the sides then.
yeah,
kinda.
yep. And that's how that goes. But interesting enough, Chris, I was born in Hartford.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I grew up in South Florida. I grew up in Hollywood, just a little bit up from.
See, I knew
And
you
now
guys
you're
were
doing
all
movies,
together now.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
Right. And my wife, Chrissy, also grew up in Hollywood. That's, we have that connection of Hollywood. But I moved up here in 81, and I started doing demolition, primarily demolition in 1990 at Patrick Air Force Base. We demoed the old Space Coast Hotel and kept moving forward with that type of demolition.
Interesting. And a family business, right?
Yes, it's family business.
You got kids involved in it?
Yes, my son Frank and my daughter Lindsay. So Frank Lynn. That's where,
All right,
that's
yeah.
where Frank Lynn.
Okay.
All right.
My mother was involved at one point, and grandchildren, was the only grandchildren at that time with my two, and so that's how they got named into the business.
Who was driving the big piece of equipment out there? Is that a daughter or daughter-in-law that was driving?
Oh, my daughter-in-law, my son Frank's wife, Kristen.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's one of our best
Got about 90
operators.
pounds, and she's in there like ripping this thing apart.
Yeah, she's really good operator.
Don't mess with her.
For a 26, 27-year-old female, she learned that. She learned it really good, and she's really good at what she does.
Pete, since you've lived here a long time, you've seen the highs and lows. You've seen the end of the shuttle era in 2011, and how things fell out to the bottom here in the Titusville area, and now 12 years later, it's looking pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah,
To talk about that yin and yang and living here and raising your families and stuff, and how now it looks like things are here to stay.
Well, being in construction, and we did other things other than demolition. We did earthwork, and we did grading and hauling dirt. 2008, 2009, when the economy just went to hell, we didn't have that type of work available, and a lot of my companies that I competed against, they simply went out of business. But we had big demo jobs, and those big demo jobs kept us going. It bridged us through the hard times. So we were luckily for that, we had that to go do, and that got us through. As far as that goes, as far as today's world versus
Yeah, just the general living for
2007.
families around here.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the roads. I mean, you know, it's jammed. I mean, there's so many people, and now we have, you know, SpaceX, Blue Origin, Relativity. You know, there's so many different people that we've worked on every single one of those pads, and there's just a lot of activity.
That's awesome.
Mega activity.
Every road you drive down here is not pretty busy. There, everywhere you look, construction going on. There's another 500 condos going in over there, units here.
We do a lot of work at Port Canaveral, and you know, I mean, we're just doing North Berth 3, and they're getting ready to start North Berth 4. I mean, last week we were in there getting some area ready for paving. There must have been 8 cruise ships in there. Wow. It's and they got more coming.
Yeah. It's a little comment about our society here, and you know, just things are going good here. If we just cut that gas price in half, that'd be help us all. In,
Good luck with that, Mark.
lot of ways there.
Yeah.
Well, we got one. We're going to end our little program here. I think it came together quite well with our eclectic group of people here. Art visual director, a painter, and a demolition contractor.
How could it not be a
So
perfect
I can
show?
own a piece of ML2 for about $225. What am I showing there, Mike Cotton?
This actually, and this was a deal that Pete put together with a guy named Dave Hall, owns an incredible company out in Anaheim. You might as well say L.A.
Moto Art.
Yeah, and he has planetags.com as well. And I guess they got in the business 8 or 10 years ago. They've been around that long, but they started doing old from the graveyard, which is in the desert out there, like TWA planes, Eastern Airlines, World War II, and they would then take the metal and make these commemorative tags. Well, then he heard about MLP2 and got in touch with Pete. And what do you call that? The fins on the top of the
TMSU, tail mass service
Yeah,
unit.
those
Okay.
are tail mat, those
Right.
red things they note there.
Yeah, that's why they highlight it.
And
Yeah.
this thing is, if you look at it, it's heavy. But Dave Hall's towards the end of the film explains how they got the stuff from Pete, and they began to break it down, then bring it into the manufacturing facility, and the challenges they had to actually do this. And those are all numbered, and it's on, instead of cardstock, it's on metal card. And then that thing there, you can't believe how much that thing weighs when you put it on.
Really?
And I'll have, I don't know if Dave's coming or not, but
We'll
I have a
some for
sample.
sale.
Yeah, I'll have a sample
To
there,
make orders
and we
there.
can direct you how to order those from Plain Tax.
Always a memento of the space history, of course. And guys, I really appreciated the show today and all of your input. There is the entire service structure, the remote service structure, the base to space under the bird there, the whole complex. None of that exists anymore at either launch pad there. Did you tear down the RSSs, the remote service structure?
No.
Work on that.
I did it. I didn't win that.
But what we're all about is celebrating the beautiful shuttle era. This weekend, there is our monument at Spaceview Park, beautiful stainless steel, iconic shuttle symbol up there on top of it there, and the little pylons around there have workers' names that worked on the shuttle around there, including Marty Winkle, my producer for over 3 years. Marty, this is show 85 today.
Wow.
Something like that. We're approaching 800 episodes, and stay curious. And I think everyone will agree this was a good one. A little out of the box, but we pulled it off, guys. I appreciate you being here. Anybody have any parting comments? Think about those. I thank Lisa Marie for watching. Tom Celentano is watching. And we've got Daniel DeYoung's watching. Daniel, our Spirit Airline pilot, going to see you tomorrow, Daniel.
Is he coming? Really?
Yeah, he's
I
coming.
didn't know
He's
that. All right.
from the Netherlands, and he said he's going to be there. So, and Steve Hammer, Steve, if you show up, let me meet you. He does. He's involved with one of the magazines.
And what is the venue? Where's it going to be?
The Hyatt Place, Titusville, Kennedy Space Center, right there on Route 1 at the 405 that goes into Kennedy Space Center. Beautiful facility there. We certainly thank them and their manager, Robert, and Dana for their opening the doors for us. This is what they wanted, was a space geek hangout place. And
You know, they got that astronaut when you walk right in on the left. There's that big astronaut
That's right.
sculpture. So
that's right.
it's a good
And
start.
so we're looking forward to hopefully seeing you in person. If not, we'll see you on live stream out there. Any parting comments, anybody there?
Sure. Let's
Just
Yeah.
just of a million things. There is going to be different people that are in the film. A few of them have told me they're going to be there, so you'll be able to actually talk to these people if you're not familiar with them after the film and pick their brains. And these are all kinds of electricians, firemen, construction people, HVAC people from all their different points of view, right to the guy that took it all apart in the end. But they all have like a different just concept of what that is. But they all agree it was a modern marvel.
We're premiering the movie at screening at 1:15. All right, and then these gentlemen are going to talk about questions from the audience afterwards there. And then at 3:00 will be the panel led by Chris Calle about the influence of space art on today's society and our space program.
And if you're interested in space and you're on the Space Coast tomorrow, this is the place to be.
That's
Hyatt
right.
Place, ShuttleFest.
Thank you very much there. Pete, what have you got to say going out there? Appreciate getting to know you more, and we always extend a welcome to your family to come here for free to our museum here, all right?
And they have been here. And I believe my daughter years ago, the whole school came here. So yes, we appreciate living and working in Brevard County, and it's been good for us. It's a really nice place to live and work.
And that's what we're all about, the American Space Museum. After all, we are in the delivery room of America's space age when you're in Brevard County. Can't get any closer without being on the Space Center, really. So, Marty, excellent Streamlabs presentation today. Anything we need to button up over there?
No, just a lot of enjoyed the show, great show, things like that. Just quite a few of those. You all did a great
Outside
job.
of Chris's family, anybody else comment on that?
Yeah, Pete's family.
Pete's family.
No, he's got a lot of work.
Thanks for making
They're all at work, by the way.
Yeah. And we do thank Tom and Mark
Let's
Usiak
get
and
back to
Tom's
work.
wife
It's not
Vicky
comment.
for
Get back to work.
providing the money to buy another microphone in here. Dave Stangy's been a contributor to our show, and we want you to go check out gotravel.com. We got some great friends there that we'll be featuring throughout the year, throughout the rest of the year.
I got one parting thing to say.
Yes, sir.
Mark Usiak, we miss you.
Yes, we miss you, Marky. All right, but
Who's going to carry my bags?
my shoulders are too slumped. I'm too old carrying all that gear for the AP. Well, everybody, thank you guys.
Thank you, Mark.
You know, what we love about American Space Museum, Marty, is that we've made friends over the last 3 years of doing this, and we got 4 great ones here in the museum, in our studio here, and we mean that from our hearts. It means the world to Karan Conklin, who's worked so hard for this museum, that we've made friends like all of you here.
Thank you.
That extend in your own way to your own circles what we're all about. So, well, until next week when we come live on Stay Curious, we'll be live at the Hyatt Place Hotel for ShuttleFest tomorrow. We'll be getting going about 10 o'clock. If there are some glitches out there, we're just going to live with them because the priority is our audience there at the event. So hope you can come. And until then, I'm Mark Marquette saying we can't wait to see you again to what? Bridge the space between us. Thank you very much.